Clock strikes midnight, fireworks light. For a moment it feels just right. Smiling faces, warm embraces, possibilities all ignite. Then the next morning I drive to work. People annoy me and I'm spilling coffee all over my favorite shirt. Why do my New Year's resolutions never reach their full evolutions? Faced with the day, it all fades away in January. This year I'll be patient, I'll see beauty in all the little things. Promises fill the room, I still fear it all melts way before spring. Cause the next morning we're late for school. People annoy us and being nice just ends up making us feel like fools. Why do our New Year's resolutions never reach their full evolutions? Faced with the day, it all fades away in January. Writing down a list of all the changes, plans and fancy phrases. Can't it be enough to always try to do our best? What if my New Year's resolutions never held any real solutions? What if each day, sunshine or gray, I wake up and say that I let this day take me? Smiling faces, warm embraces, possibilities all ignite. Then the next morning I drive to work. People annoy me and I'm spilling coffee all over my favorite shirt. Why do my New Year's resolutions never reach their full evolutions? Faced with the day, it all fades away in January. This year I'll be patient, I'll see beauty in all the little things. Promises fill the room, I still fear it all melts way before spring. Cause the next morning we're late for school. People annoy us and being nice just ends up making us feel like fools. Why do our New Year's resolutions never reach their full evolutions? Faced with the day, it all fades away in January. Writing down a list of all the changes, plans and fancy phrases. Can't it be enough to always try to do our best? What if my New Year's resolutions never held any real solutions? What if each day, sunshine or gray, I wake up and say that I let this day take me? Smiling faces, warm embraces, possibilities all ignite. Then the next morning I drive to work. this year I'll be patient. I'll see beauty in all the little things. Promises fill the room. I still fear it all melts way before spring. 'Cause the next morning we're late for school. People annoy us, and being nice just ends up making us feel like fools. Why do our New Year's resolutions never reach their full evolutions? Faced with the day, it all fades away in January. Writing down a list of all the changes, plans and fancy phrases. Can't it be enough to always try to do our best? What if my New Year's resolutions never held any real solutions? What if each day, sunshine or gray, I wake up and say that I'll let this day take me?
If all days, brown eyes, roots in my apartment, and we grew, passed by, plans were always falling. I know you need out sometimes, head on the glass by traffic lights. Thoughts never felt so blind, so we take off in amazing dive. Driving circles, growing sick of the weather. Heather gray, fell asleep in my sweatshirt. I'll leave the world and make a new one together. That's how my mom that I'll be back in November. It's all for the better. Hallways, bird skies, ride with clouds we're lost in. And we drew this life back when we were falling. I know you need out sometimes, head on the glass by traffic lights. Thoughts never felt so blind, so we take off in amazing dive. Driving circles, growing sick of the weather. Heather gray, fell asleep in my sweatshirt. I'll leave the world and make a new one together. That's how my mom that I'll be back in November. It's all for the better. Fall days, brown eyes, roots in my apartment, and we grew, passed by, plans were always falling. I know you need out sometimes, head on the glass by traffic lights. Thoughts never felt so blind, so we take off in amazing dive. Driving circles, growing sick of the weather. Heather gray, fell asleep in my sweatshirt. I'll leave the world and make a new one together. That's how my mom that I'll be back in November. It's all for the better. Hallways, bird skies, ride with clouds we're lost in. And we drew this life back when we were falling. I know you need out sometimes, head on the glass by traffic lights. Thoughts never felt so